Hello, friends. It's Pastor Randall. Welcome to the Bible study here at Loudon United Methodist. We continue our stroll through Deuteronomy, and we're going to pick up in Deuteronomy chapter 12. The first 11 chapters were very much, new law material, perhaps innovated law material, as in it is presented in a slightly different way than it was previously in either Exodus, Leviticus, or Numbers, is mixed together with this sort of narrative idea of Moses giving his farewell addresses. And sometimes these addresses tell us new scenarios, or perhaps give a new spin on a scenario we knew before. When we pick up in chapter 12, we're talking about worship at the location the Lord selects. Chapter 12 might seem weird that, it's vague in the sense of sometime when you enter the land, God's going to pick a place for you to worship, and to only worship there. Do not create multiple spots for worship. Do not franchise it out, to use a modern idea. This becomes important for two reasons going forward. One, after we get through Solomon, there will be a revolution that will split the kingdom, the north being called Israel, and the southern, which is 10 tribes, and then 2 tribes, Judah being the main one, will form, Judah, the country of Judah. Now, Judah will have Jerusalem and will have the temple. When we read into Kings, we will see that the northern kingdom kings, no matter what else they may or may not do, will always be accused of following the sin of Jeroboam. Now, on one level, Jeroboam is accused of creating a new golden calf, but he is also accused, very rightly, of ordering worship somewhere in a different place. When you have a civil war and your nation breaks in two and you don't get the temple, guess what? There is no hey, can I get a visa to come and worship at the temple? And so the southern kingdom people will see the northern kingdom people unfairly, in my opinion, as being as doing idolatry because they can't worship God in the right place. Traditionally speaking, we also have a tradition where actually God doesn't want a temple at all. God wants a mountain, and there is a specific mountain. And the reason I bring this up is when this is the tradition that ends up, of course, being talked about in the New Testament as the Samaritans, the people who would be called the Samaritans. That's what they believe. And when Jesus meets the Samaritan woman, she says, you all will say that the true worship of God is here, and we say that it's up here on Mount Gerizim. Where shall we worship God? To, of course, where Jesus disarms the whole theological argument by saying, well, you will worship God in spirit and in truth. So the place of worship is very important in the Old Testament and important going forward. Chapter 13 is about the sort of seductive nature of the false gods and how infectious it can be. There is even in one of the more challenging or perhaps terrifying, depending on how you want to look at it, verses we have here. If a town is infected, where it seems like the most of the town is worshiping a false god, we will destroy the whole town rather than to let the area fall to godlessness. This rolls into chapter 14 where it begins with this word, you are the Lord's children. Don't cut yourselves and don't shave your foreheads for the dead, because you are a people holy to your God. You are the ones whom the Lord has selected to be a treasured people for all the earth. And so, again, Deuteronomy brings this new idea of this passionate love between God and the people, and because God passionately loves you. And so then it goes in very familiar territory from what we've had in the rest of the law, as it reiterates the things that you can eat and the things you cannot eat. Again, to be different set aside for God means you must be different. You must act different. You must do different things. You must reserve the 10th part, which is your best part. Of your grain, your wine, your oil. Not only is there what you can and can't eat, but then there is what you make, what you produce. God gets the best, right? And so, and then it re-adds that, you can, that this is how the Levites will actually live, is eating off of this. Our final chapter is chapter 15, which brings about, again, it's an innovation over things we have seen before. It tells us that, every 7 years, debts will be canceled. If someone makes themselves a slave at the end of the 7-year period, it even starts throwing in new innovations that say, now don't you dare refuse to lend money to somebody who's poor because you know it's the 6th year, or it's near the end of the 7th. You must still treat the poor well. You must still be open to this. You must not rig the deal so the people cannot be set free. Again, this sort of new innovation of there is a moral stance. God sets you free from Egypt, that you are morally obligated to be people who don't want to hold others captive in their slavery. There is, as always, if the person loves you and your family, you may stick a hole in their ear and hang a hoop from it to show that you belong to them, and they will be treated as if they're family, whatever that means. And there has been great debate among scholars whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, because it does seem not their position as slave has never changed, but the lifelong slave is considered family, but probably not with inheritance or anything. And so again, we walk through these chapters and we're seeing both a recall to the traditional stuff and new innovations along the way, this idea of a passionate God and a passionate people. Well, thank you for being with me for this video, and we will pick up at our next video at chapter 16. Like, share, subscribe to our channel. Thank you for being with me, and God bless.